Hello, good day, ethical decision makers, and welcome to another discussion for your good governance and social responsibility subject. And today we'll be discussing about good governance. So many times in our recent history, no, recent significant history, that the word good governance is always brought about. And what makes it significant to decision makings, particularly in the field of politics, no? Government administration. No? So let's find out what are the elements of good governance and how can we make good decisions following the elements of the good governance. So let's begin. Okay? So it's very important that we consider our stakeholders, the people around us that are involved and may be affected with our decisions. So gaining that public trust is a key on sustaining good governance. If you remember our last discussions about corporate leadership or in, of course, how can you influence other people if they don't trust you? No, that's one importance of this idea that gaining public trust is a key on sustaining good governance. So it's a way of showing integrity of public officials and even the corporate officials in order to achieve public trust or the trust of the people in your organization towards good governance, and all essential elements shall be put into practice. Kasi, again, leaders sets the tone, cultural tone. And it's really important that you have that trust from your people around you. And in fact, you as a person won't trust won't trust other people if you don't see something that they mean business, literally. Diba? So, it's an idea on achieving public trust. No? So, the word governance means the process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented. So, out of the procedure, out of the policies, it's the decision making. No? It's how they govern, it's how they use resources, it's how they manage resources. No? Ganon din sa management. When you govern, especially group of people, you will be in the process of decision making and implement that decisions or not implementing those. Okay, so there's what we call a framework of good governance, no? And please look at this framework later. That good governance has 8 major characteristics. It is participatory, consensus-oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and follows the rule of law. Mamaya isa-isahin natin yan. But as I've mentioned, ito yung framework ng good governance. So those 8 elements are included or considered in the decision-making process to be effective, efficient, and to create an ethical decision as a manager. Excuse. Okay? So, nakapalibot sila sa good governance. In fact, should be a Venn diagram wherein all of these 8 factors are taken into consideration at yung pinakagitna is magre-resulta into a good governance. It's the relationship of all of this. A touch of all of this. No? Okay. So, let's start first with the participation. I'm sorry, okay? So participation needs to be informed and organized. This means freedom of association and expression on the one hand, and an organized civil society on the other hand. So, in the context of a corporation or in a company, so kasali sila sa decision making, or in fact, they must be represented. No? Sa gobyerno natin, we have that democratic type of leadership wherein we allow uh, opinions or even recommendations from other people. Now, if you remember our topic about leadership, so democratic type yon, hihingi ka ng recommendations and ibibigay mo yung decisions. So, you get to consult them and they participate. In fact, when there are Senate and uh, um, House of Representative hearing, they call on respective group or civil society group that represents the concern. So, halimbawa, it's about public transportation. Tatawagin nila yung mga representative presidents ng mga association ng jeepney and the likes. No? In fact, even in our election, we have our representatives. No? At pag gumagawa ng batas, pag bumoboto yung mga yan, no? There's a participation. Not just tayo yung tayong bumoto bilang tao na, gawin ng batas yan, no? Or panukala na yan. No. Nung election, as part of this suffrage, pumili tayo ng House of Representatives, representatives natin sa mga distrito at saka mga senador na re-represent sa atin yung idealism natin. No? Even the party list representatives, kung ano yung mga grupong kinabibilangan mo, just like a farmer party list, so they represent the concern of the farmers. So, merong participation. Same as with the decision making in a corporation. So, in a company, no, in a company, there should be participation wherein you get to consult the people in the organization, particularly in a specific concerns that they may be affected. No? So, kailangan tanungin mo sila, kailangan involve mo sila. Because you may not lead with a effective, equivocal, and also an ethical decision kung hindi mo sila kinonsult. So, parang pera-pera na lang ba? No? So, ganun yung concern natin dyan. So, also when you are in the target to do make a to create a good governance spirit, of course you need to uphold the rule of law, uphold the rule of law. So how does it go? So good governance requires fair legal frameworks that are enforced impartially, and then it also requires full protection of human rights, particularly those of minorities. No? So in the context of a corporation or in a company, no, of course, there should be fair legal frameworks or procedures and even included in the policy. No? If it is not included in the policy, it should go deliberation. No? So, kailangan balik tayo dun sa participation. You need to involve them to the decision making para ma-inform sila, no? At sumama dun sa fair legal process. In fact, those basic human rights na involved dyan is the right to the due process. No? Kapag nagkamali sa empleyado, no? To the idea of the good governance, you will not impose sanctions already, but go with the full protection of their human rights. Of course, you go back with the idea of due process, investigate first, no? So that's one requirement for good governance, no? So hindi lang basta-basta decision lang, but also it is a process. Okay, that leads us to number 3, transparency. Of course, we need to uphold the law and the policies at all times. So, of course, we need to transparent to them. Let them be informed. Excuse. Okay? So, transparency means that decisions taken and their enforcement are done in a manner that follows the rules and regulations. And it also means that information is freely available and directly accessible to those who will be affected by such decisions and their enforcement. So if you remember earlier, I've mentioned that you're represented, then it upheld the rule of law, and the transparency in the context of our government is you are able to have information, you get to know it, and that's why part of our law is the standard operating procedures. When a law is passed, of course, it needs to be published para malaman ng lahat na batas na ito. At meron siyang time para sa implementation. No? And then, magpapalabas ng implementing rules and regulations. Ganun din. So organization, if there are new policies, you let the people know about it so that they are aware, of course, kung meron mang sanctions doon sa mga bagong policies na yan, you should be transparent. So hindi yung pagdating ng time nagkamali siya, sir, wala naman po sa policy natin, meron. Oh, no? So it's an idea that you should let them know, especially those new things, no? And especially pagpasok pa lang sa kumpanya, of course there should be manuals, no? You should be transparent on what should they do. Of course there should be duties and responsibility clauses, and part of their contract should distinguish the nature of their job, no? So ganun ang transparency, you let them know, of course, para maiwasan yung misunderstanding and miscommunication, no? Then responsiveness. So the idea is responsiveness or the reactiveness. Good governance requires that institutions and processes try to serve all stakeholders within a reasonable time frame. So, hindi lang ito for the implementation, but an implementation na meron kang goal, no? It's a time bound. No? Time bound siya, ibig sabihin you are able to respond at a specific time, no? So, actionan mo siya, no, ng based on the policy na meron kayo, at also na reasonable time frame wherein magawa mo yan effectively, no? So kapag may isang problema based on the policy, ganito yung nangyayari, so you make solutions. I'll tell you this, habang tumatagal yung problema, mas nagiging komplikado siya. So in a context of an organization, it should be solved, no, at a reasonable time. Okay? So it's the responsiveness of an organization. So it should also be consensus oriented. What is consensus oriented? Consensus means there's a meeting of the mind. Ibig sabihin, focus ka dun sa alam ng lahat at naintindihan ng lahat. So, good governance requires mediation of the different interests in the society or in the group of people in your company to reach a broad consensus in the, of course, the organization on what is the best interest of the whole organization and how this can be achieved. No? So, when you decide, as much as possible, it's consensus oriented, that it's it has the interest of everyone, no? Of course, para maging fair yung decision mo, no, it should be have the participation or representative of everyone para makuha yung side nila at magkaroon sila ng benefit or fair treatment dun sa policy, no? Sa mga paggawa ng ordinansa sa isang lehislatura sa local government unit, meron silang mga konsehal at meron silang representative, halimbawa tungkol sa kabataan ng issue, so the SK president should be there. Kapag naman tungkol sa mga senior citizen, kailangan andun yung senior citizen president ng locality. Kapag naman tungkol sa barangay, the ABC presidents and the like. So it's consensus oriented. You let them know, no? Parang merong consultation, no? So kung meron kang igagawing batas, meron kang gagawing activity, there will be consultation of those involved. This again will eliminate the idea of misunderstanding and miscommunication and even malpractices in organization wherein nagiging incompetent yung ibang mga divisions or group of in the organization because hindi nila alam, no? So merong mediation, merong pagpapagitna doon sa mga nangyayari, no? And that is also related to what we call equity and inclusiveness. A society's well-being depends on ensuring that all its members feel free that they have a stake in it and do not feel excluded from the mainstream society. In a corporate setting, of course, again, all of those involved should be have that stake or what you call a portion of that decision wherein their voices are heard, no? But again, it's not all the time na nangyayari to. It's of course the Philippines is a democratic country, So, pinapakinggan naman ang iba't ibang mga opinion. No, yun nga lang, syempre, ang decision pa rin lagi nasa head of the state. No? So, yun lang yung nangyayari. But it should be equitable and inclusive. Kasali lahat. No? Even those uh, yung pinaka-konti ang epekto sa kanila, kailangan may sali sila. So, it should be part of that. Ganito kasi yan eh. When you solve a problem, no? And those problem ay maraming maapektuhan, sigurado magiging parte din sila ng solusyon. So, halimbawa yung tungkol sa kalat, no? Ang problema yung mga tao, kahit na naglilinis naman lagi. So, ang solusyon nasa tao din. So, you involve them. So, gawa ka ng program na ini-involve mo yung tao para sa solusyon. No? Okay? And then, uh, effectiveness and efficiency, though it's not limited to this because yung ethicality, nasa legality naman tayo and the morality of the decision. No? So, good governance means that processes and institutions, procedures, results that meet the needs of the society or the corporation or the company while making the best use of resources at their disposal. No? So, dito babalik tayo dun sa procedures and the resources that we have. No? So, when you make decisions, of course, you should able to achieve that objective as well as you make use of the funds or the resources well. Now, by the way, ganun nga, the effectiveness and efficiency, minsan depende to sa nakaka-receive. No? So, for example, there are budget for the pedestrian lane. No? There are budget for pedestrian lane para maging safe na tumatawid yung mga tao. No? Pero etong mali dyan eh. No? Tama naman yung idea, the objective and the resources are used well. May pintura naman yan and the likes. But yung implementation minsan nagkakaproblema tayo because of dissolution. No? Yung mga tao na expect mong tatawid doon na hindi pa rin tumatawid doon. No? So, hindi nagiging efficient. Nagiging it's a form of corruption or misuse of the funds. Kasi merong pedestrian lane, merong overpass, pero hindi ginagamit ng tao. No? So, in fact, ang corrupt doon is the people, no? The citizens. No? Kasi they are not using those intended funds. Kasi meron namang nilagay yung gobyerno para sa ikakabuti o ikakasafe nung ginagawa nila, pero hindi pa rin nila sinusunod. No? Again, good governance and also leadership is bipartite. Ibig sabihin, it's not just with the leader eh. It's also with the followers. Paano susundin yan? And you as a leader, what are your activities that invite people to follow, no? To motivate people, no? Pero yung iba talaga makukulit at magugulo. Yun yung medyo hindi natin maiwasan, particularly in our country, no? And lastly is accountability, no? From the word accountable, account ibig sabihin uh, naka uh, cargo ko kayo. Yun yung niya, accountable. Now from our source, accountable is an adjective word and ito nga ang meaning niya sa Webster na it's answerable of, sagot ko kayo, capable of being explained and responsible, no? So babalik tayo sa lahat ng mga elements of good governance. You're answerable of, capable of being explained, and you're responsible of that decision. Kasi nga, tinanong mo naman sila at alam mo kung ano. Sagot ko kayo. I will answer all of those questions dahil kasali kayo lahat dun sa decision-making process. No? In fact, of course, you as a follower and part of that participation, nag-participate ka dyan, at naging part ng decision-making, should also claim that that is the decision of the whole. No, you should also be accountable with that. Hindi yung laglagan na. No? Pag nagkamali yung desisyon, hindi pwede laglagan. Ganun yung good governance. blaming, especially in the government, is the parang never ending, no? Kasi that's the easy way of going outside the problem. But the problem isn't solved by blaming other people, no? Of course, you go back with the idea of the good governance and present all of those elements, no, pagsamasamahin mo, so that you may able to correct your decision in an effective and efficient and an ethical way, no? Possible. So, applicable in the corporate setting wherein we get to get the participation, it is equitable and inclusive, kasali lahat sila. And then it's fair and transparent. And also you take full responsibility on everything na magiging decision mo. Okay? So I hope that you've learned with this discussion, and then it has the lesson taught us that the element of good governance, no, are there, and always need to be considered to have an ethical, effective, and efficient decision na walang tatama ang ibang tao, or kung sakali man minimal, but also it's equitable, ibig sabihin na reasonable yung magiging epekto. Okay? With that, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that I will be well in our next session. Thank you very much, and see you on to the next one.